Got my Children's Hospital of Michigan waiting time data here. And here's the waiting time, and we've got the date and the hour together. Now, Excel wants to use whatever the leftmost column is as the x-axis. And so I'm going to just basically make a copy of the waiting time data. So now if I highlight those and do a scatter plot, it's going to be so big that I don't want to see the individual markers probably. So what's going on with that? Do you like this x-axis? So this x-axis, it's showing the numbers that it's using for dates. So I can come over here and under the number tab say, hey, I want you to format these as dates. And then it makes a little more sense. Now, I would not have chosen June 10th, July 30th, whatever. It's just spacing them according to whatever, I guess, every 50 days. So actually, maybe 30 might be too little. How about every 90 days? That's a little bit more friendly, but there isn't a nice way to say it every month, because that's sometimes 30, sometimes 31. Yeah.
Why is it like scrunched a little bit like that in the graph and not spread out the axes?
So Excel tries to choose nice numbers. So remember, this is like 42,000 something. And so it's saying, well, if the smallest x value is 42,000, I'm just going to start at 40,000, right? So that's one issue. So I guess I didn't really need a trend line here. Although, does that trend line tell me anything?
Busier as years go on.
Yeah, although it's really just kind of 1 year-ish. And it seems to be a busy section here. It's not clear that it's an actual trend. It might just be things got busier for a few months. I don't know. So it's good to view your whole data set, right? If it had a big swing, I'd be like, oh, I guess it gets busier in the summer or something. But now that we know it doesn't have a huge trend, what else do I want to look for? I've looked at the yearly scale. Okay, like I might want to investigate, like, was that real or was that just an outlier? It's also kind of interesting that it never gets below like 15 or something. Not sure why. Once I've looked at the yearly scale, I might want to look at either the monthly scale or the weekly scale. And so I might want to say, well, here's all the Sundays, here's all the Mondays, here's all the Tuesdays. So how can I convert all that to a weekly scale? Well, there's two ways to do it. Let me make some room here. And the first one is using mod. So mod means modular arithmetic, like what remainder do I get if I divide this thing by 7? So I can say take that thing, divide by 7, and just give me the remainder. Now that's actually not a date. It's just a number between 0 and 7. So now if I plot that, maybe it freezes up the machine. So what do you think of this graph?
What's our 0? Is that Sunday or Wednesday? Or?
That's the problem. Yeah, I don't know what day of the week it is, so I'd have to figure it out.
Oh, is it going back?
Yeah, that's the other problem. It's really easy to do this graph, right? You just make a new column, mod 7, there you go. But when it goes from whatever the end of the week is to the start of the next week, it draws a line going backward. So you can actually if you just decrease the line thickness, it makes it easier to ignore those. I guess it was serious about taking a while to display. So there, it's a little easier to ignore the back and forth. So do you see any strong day of week patterns like, oh yeah, these 2 days of the week are probably the weekend because they're much busier or they're much less busy or something? I don't see any strong day of week patterns. And that's actually good because this is not how many people arrived, it's how long the wait time was. And if I know the weekends are going to be busier, I should schedule more doctors and nurses to handle that to keep the wait times kind of reasonable. So this actually says they're doing a reasonable job averaging, planning for each day of the week. So that's one way to do it. The other way would be to actually use, there's a, you could say weekday of whatever date that was. And that gives you some, there's a few different options for that. Like, do you want to count Sunday? So this return type, I don't remember exactly how it works, but you can say, do I want Sunday to count as 0 or as 1, or do I want Monday to be 1 and Sunday to be 7? So that's a way you don't have to quite go and figure out which day of the week is what. So I could do that, and then I could add the hour to it to get the same effect as before. I could also plot that versus wait time and do it as dots rather than connecting lines. And then I wouldn't have the back and forth issue. Oh well. I'll just give up on that.